What's up, everybody?
Episode.
Okay, put on your headset. This is episode number 2 on the best podcast out there, right, Jemmy? With the best co-host.
Absolutely. And by best co-host, I assume you're referring to me.
I only have one co-host on the show.
Just for clarification.
So, Jemmy, yesterday was the famous launch of the Owwll podcast.
It was.
We had Charles Bender on the show.
It was
and
great.
We are donating all the revenue this week to Place of Hope. I am excited.
Yes.
There's so much interaction going on the Owwll platform right now.
Yes, and it was a great interview. And if you missed it, go back and watch it because Charles was able to talk about how all his different areas of expertise, he pours that into what he does at Place of Hope in the community. And it's a wonderful charity to support. So we want you guys to encourage you guys to go to their website and donate. Donate this week for Place of Hope. But today we have a new guest and I'm really excited because she's a friend of mine.
I'm excited too.
Hey, she's a friend of mine
She's
too.
my friend of, I claim her. She's a
Did you
friend
claim
of
her
mine.
first?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. So our guest today is Cindy Metzler. She's the president of Owwll Media. Is that how you say it?
Yes.
That's what I thought. Okay. And co-organizer of TEDx Boca Raton. But she has done some incredible things for other businesses. And that's why I want you guys to really lean in to this conversation. She's going to talk about her expertise and how she helps pour that expertise out into other businesses and pay it forward. So she's a PR professional, an entrepreneur, and a marketing maven with over 20 years of extensive experience. She's fantastic. And she's an awesome lady. I love her. So welcome to the show, Cindy.
And a power networker.
Yes,
right?
yes. If anybody knows how relationships matter when it comes to building something, it's Cindy.
Sure is.
Aw, thank you guys. How excited. I'm so excited to be here. The second podcast.
I know.
Woo!
This is awesome. And by the way, I'm a huge fan of Place of Hope too. Great organization. Everybody needs to check it out and learn about what they're doing because they're doing beautiful things.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, they sure are. They sure are.
So, Cindy, let's jump right in. Tell us a little bit about your backstory as an expert in PR, as well as, put on these big events. Last one was at Metzler Park. Hundreds of people showed up for an awesome TEDx. So start with your PR side.
Thank you, guys. By the way, thank you so much, Jemmy, for the intro. Love you too. So we're doing work together and hopefully a lot more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course.
So, so I started my company about 20 years ago when I was just 10 years old, right?
Exactly.
The lemonade stand.
Yes, exactly. So, I have a passion for public relations, for telling people stories, for amplifying and storytelling and getting words out that are meaningful. And actually, that's how I got involved with TEDx Boca Raton. My friend Eric Mintz, who I've known forever as well. He's very much involved in the tech industry, and so am I, in South Florida over the past 20 years. So he approached me, I think it was in 2016, so it's been like 6 years ago now that we have been doing TEDx Boca Raton. And yeah, last year we had almost 1,000 people, the coldest day of the year in Florida, in Metzler Park.
So dip down to low 70s.
No, it was literally...
No, it was like 40s.
It was in the 40s. Jason knows he was there. We all had
We were a
blankets.
sponsor, and we were running the Shrimp Tank podcast outdoors, and it was, our hands were numb.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was cold, but people rallied. I was so excited. We had some amazing speakers as usual. And then the past few years before that, we've had it at FAU, which has been great. And I know Shrimp Tank's a partner with FAU's Entrepreneurship Center. So yeah, exciting stuff.
And you guys had the nicest lanyards, I noticed. Right? They were so good looking.
Da-da-da-da.
Oh yeah, Owwll was
That's
on there.
right.
Remember that?
I do. I still have mine. It's nice and fashionable.
It is. I saved mine too, by the way.
So I'm curious about your business philosophy because you've defined a term. Sometimes we say solopreneur. I was a solopreneur. Now I have a team. Sometimes we say mompreneur. I'm definitely one of those still.
Me
but
too.
Yes. You're talking about your son.
Owlpreneur. Come on.
Owlpreneur. There we go. I love it.
That's the first time I said that. I didn't even realize that.
We need to trademark
It's a moment.
that,
It's a
right?
moment. But you've coined the term entrepreneur. So let's describe that because I think that ties into your general philosophy of approaching how you do everything.
Yeah, so means the vibration of the universe, connecting, and that's one of the things, obviously, that Owwll connect, learn, grow.
Yes.
I
But
never knew
it's
this. This whole
yeah,
time we've known each other.
yes, but it's very foundational. I really believe that that's so important that people connect. And I think that it's so wonderful because obviously things have changed over the past 20 years, but with social media, you can have mentors and you can connect with people that you don't even know. So that's the beauty, and learn. And I'm also, I would say, an information addict. So I love just learning and gathering information and just coming up with things that other people, other influencers, and other thought leaders. And again, that's another reason why I got involved in TEDx Boca Raton, being around people that are making an impact. We've had amazing speakers from NASA, from National Geographic, from just people that are, and then local people that are doing amazing things in the community. So yeah, exciting stuff.
Tell us one story that blows you away from the last TEDx when the speaker's up on stage.
Oh my gosh, there were quite a few, but actually one of your guests, Christy Basu.
Oh, yeah.
She's amazing.
Eat me guilt free,
Eat
absolutely.
me guilt free. I love, well, this is her backstory. One of her pieces of her backstory is that her first year in business, she started, well, she's a nurse. And well, she was a nurse. She's still a nurse, and educationally a nurse. And she started making brownies because she was into nutrition and fitness out of her home. And her first year in business, she made over $960,000 in her kitchen.
Wow.
And then that spiraled into her multi-million-dollar business that's in Miami now. And it's in lots of different stores, and it's protein brownies and a few other items. And so I love supporting other women. I love telling stories of inspiration from other women, and also men too, like you, Jason, right?
Well, actually, I'm curious to know how you got started in PR, because that is your passion. You're passionate about, helping other people reach their goals and I kind of tumbled into PR on accident. And so I'm curious, was it intentional, your journey into this and your passion for this? Like, where did this all come from? Was it intentional or by accident?
I think a little of both, honestly. So I do have, I went to Fashion Institute of Technology in New York, and I studied marketing and public relations. But when I first left college, I was working in buying and retail and that side of things. And I did go to school for fashion buying and merchandising as well. But I ended up loving the PR side of things. And then I started working for a small agency when I moved from New York to Florida, in Boca Raton. And then that's how things happen. And then in 2000, we worked with a lot of tech companies back then. And in 2000, when the dot-com bubble burst, I went off on my own and started, taking a few tech clients, and then some clients in the beauty industry, some clients in different businesses. And yeah, that's sort of how it happened.
So would you say that it's fair to say that your building of your expertise muscle, right, in PR came from a little bit of working with this kind of client, or a little bit of working with that kind of client, and then it just all kind of built into your full breadth of your skill set?
Definitely. But I also think, and it's funny because I hear so many conversations now on different social media platforms, on LinkedIn, on Instagram, about, how to connect, how to get out there. And I think one of the biggest skills that I've learned is really listening. And I really do have a passion for listening and learning about other people. So it's not about telling about me. It's actually a little sometimes uncomfortable telling about me.
Welcome to the show, Cindy.
I love to hear other people's stories and tell them. We were talking with Vanessa, who's in the background here.
Yeah, we have a studio audience today.
And who was one of our TEDx performers on the entertainment side. She was amazing. Just how being in front of the camera or behind the camera, and I'm used to being behind with getting people's stories out. So that's really my comfort zone. And I just love learning about what makes people tick, how they're making an impact. And that's also one of the things that drew me to TEDx Boca Raton. And it's been an amazing experience. And, we get hundreds of submissions each year. and we can only showcase a few of those on stage. But there's so many stories out there. I mean, every single person, every single business has an amazing story once you start digging.
So one of the things that I think is going to be really instrumental about this show, our listeners are going to learn a lot about the journey of becoming an expert. They want to become an expert, and then they want to be able to capitalize on that expertise as much as possible. And I think what I've loved about knowing you these years and then learning more about you as I was preparing for today is that you've had to almost kind of reinvent yourself a little bit here and there and everywhere all the time. And so I was curious, that made me wonder, like, okay, you are the queen of events, right? You can put on PR events and get people on stages and do all these other amazing things. But when COVID hit, all events shut down. So did that force your hand to kind of become an expert more on online events now?
Yeah. Well, actually, interestingly, while we couldn't do the TEDx on stage, we did host, just like you too, Jason, like we did host a lot of virtual events, and they were incredibly successful. And even a lot of the clients that we work with, we pivoted with them, and they were sharing their expertise online. And literally some of our clients had, thousands of people register for different topics, whatever the topic was. One of our clients is in the indoor air quality space. Obviously that was and still is a really, really important topic right now. So yeah, I mean, I think that most businesses have had to learn over the past few years to kind of pivot and see. But the thing that I love about it is that people recognize now that you don't have to be in an office to really make an impact, and that there's so many things that you can do and be productive when you're not actually sitting in a cubicle or sitting actually on site somewhere.
I completely agree. It's just so powerful today when you can do a meeting in 1 hour on Zoom and not have to travel to a location, spend an hour in traffic and then an hour getting home, right? And you really can make the best use of your time. And then when you're in front of a computer screen, right, you have all the tools on your computer. You could share your screen, you could record things as well. So it's very productive at the end of the day. Can you share with us?
Nothing beats in person, right?
I know, right? Especially when you get coffee.
It's kind of like this. It's a hybrid.
balance.
I'm a big believer of the hybrid
me
because
too. Yeah.
you don't get that same feeling like we're doing right now in person in a studio with headsets on, microphones, and then after the episode ends, we get to chat a little bit more one-on-one.
Right.
You really get to know somebody, right? You get to see their interactions and how they really act off camera, right?
Exactly.
Or sometimes when you're always, in a group setting, it's uncomfortable sometimes when you're in a big clubhouse room or you're on a big Zoom meeting, right? You don't know what people are going to record and then put out on the internet. When you're one-on-one, you could just have a natural conversation, of course. Can you share with the pivot that you made, what you learned from those experiences, right? Often we kind of get stuck in our ways. It's hard to change. It's hard to download another app. It's hard to use a new technology. And what COVID did do is it forced us overnight to fix the issues in our business, and then also, change
flexible.
the way, be flexible,
Nimble,
have patience
exactly.
with people because people, were not logging into the Zoom because they couldn't figure it out, or, they couldn't go into your event and they were complaining like this technology stinks, right? Tell us the story about like how you pivoted and what your takeaways were.
Well, we definitely did a lot of research. As a matter of fact, Jason, we reached out to you a lot because we were looking at so many different platforms, and I have clients with huge tech teams too that actually we researched Web Ninja, like all of these different platforms that, all of them have pros and cons. And I think that was one of the things that we just had to decide what worked for us. And we actually do it depends. Like sometimes we use StreamYard, sometimes we use Zoom. It depends on what we're doing. But I think that people just have to sort of take that leap of faith and not worry and just put it out there. And you know what? You're going to sometimes make mistakes. And it is hard for, especially someone, we've been in business for 20 years. So you obviously want to look like you know what you're doing.
Right?
Yes.
But you reach out to people like you, Jason, that can help. And your team was great. I know we were doing a couple of different events. As a matter of fact, with several of our TEDx speakers behind the scenes at TEDx, we did a webinar. We had a huge amount of people that attended, and it was teaching people like what goes on behind the scenes, how to get involved with TEDx. And we wanted the platform that we use to be really effective, and we ended up going with StreamYard, and we streamed it to different platforms, and it was really beneficial. But it's really about learning and doing that research and figuring it out. And you kind of sometimes, like, we have this expression with one of my clients who's a $1 billion company, that you have to sometimes assemble the plane as you're flying.
Yes.
Right?
Oh my gosh.
We know about that, Jemmy.
Yes,
Don't
we
we?
do. Yes, we do. You know what I heard from your answer there, Cindy? You had a problem, you had a need, so you connected with somebody who could give you the right information. You learned your options and made a well-informed decision, and that allowed you to continue to grow your business. I think I've heard those words, connect, learn, and grow, somewhere before, Jason. Somewhere before. Somewhere. There it is. Fantastic. It's so in the spirit of what we do at Owwll.
Absolutely.
So after all these years, have you learned, you get what you pay for, right? Often, we all try to seek advice on Google, on YouTube, watching a video for an hour, and you get frustrated, of course. But over time, you start realizing, hey, it's easier to pick up the phone and call someone who's been through that situation before. Like, what have you learned, over all these years of just leaning on people in your corner at the end of the day?
Well, I do have to say, everyone, I mean, we were very fortunate that a lot of our businesses that we work with actually got busier during COVID because they were in industries that were really needed during COVID. But one thing that we did, and me personally, I did a lot of business development, personal development, different mentor groups that I got involved with. And I have to say, being a woman in business, there's special challenges that, we deal with sometimes.
Especially when we're now on video all the time.
Right. And
hey, it takes a long time to put this hair up, Jemmy. Come on.
Sure it does.
Right. But even just sometimes getting in the room, because a lot of our clients are in the tech space or in a male-dominated industries. Like, we actually, interestingly, have a lot of clients in the HVAC space too.
Mm-hmm.
So, just learning from, as you said, Jason, mentors that have been there. And the beauty of today is that you don't even, we actually did pay for mentors, but you don't even have to pay for mentors. You can go online. You can go on Instagram. We have so many, like, Mel Robbins is somebody, books. I'm on Audible, constantly reading things, listening to things. Tony Robbins, I've been like a fan for many, many years. I've been to Business Mastery with him. Even Grant Cardone, things like that you can just take little nuggets of things. And, even someone like Sheryl Sandberg, follow, and she has the group
There's
Lean
so
In.
much information out there.
We, like 6 years ago, I started a passion project. Jason knows, the Sisterhood for Success, and we host, events yearly called Ordinary Women Doing Extraordinary Things. And the beauty of between TEDx and what we do, amplifying people's voices, is that I do get connected and inspired with incredible women. And that's been something, like I said, that's a passion of mine. And so we started this organization. We actually have 10,000 women who have responded and engaged with us. And we have a lot of things cooking in the works right now, but people can find out about it at the Sisterhood for Success and join our mailing list. And lots of neat things specifically for women, but we do have a few men involved as well.
I think that is a great segue.
I was about to say the same thing. Well, we're going to play our first commercial break.
Oh,
right?
yes.
First one. We have up the ante. We got $1.
We did.
For our first
Wait,
commercial, Jemmy.
You have to explain the inspiration behind the charge of $1.
Okay. We'll start this off. So back when we started the Shrimp Tank, right, we had
His
no
other
commercials.
show.
And we were just reading commercials. Usually there was one for FAU, and then when guests would come on, we'd randomly let them know, hey, we have no sponsors at this time. We were the first 30 episodes in, and we were just being nice. We're like, here, put something on paper, we'll read it. And then Jamie came to me, and we were out to lunch one day. She's like, I'd like to be a sponsor. I go, name your price. And I'm like, the opening bid is $1.
I opened up my wallet, and I pulled out a crisp one.
She put it down.
Slid that baby right across that lunch table, and the deal was done.
The deal was signed, and that $1 bill. but it's up on the famous signature wall.
Love it. Absolutely.
You ever watched me on Zoom? Right, my background is a shrimp tank logo, and everyone's autographed the famous shrimp tank wall, including yourself. I think have you signed it yet?
I think I've seen it.
Has she? I don't know because she did her episode of FAU College of Business.
Oh, I thought I
So,
said it.
so
No,
if
here,
not,
Eric
we'll
and I
edit.
were here.
Maybe.
Sure.
So pretty much that dollar has been up there the last 4 years. So every single Zoom that's ever been
If
recorded,
you
every
see a dollar bill,
podcast
it's a
episode,
real dollar. It's mine.
your autograph is up there.
Love it.
So we have one of the people that have been on Owwll from day one, beta tester Daniel Hall, and I made him the same offer. I said, if you sign a dollar bill, he has a wall in back of his office, and it's all his children's paintings that give him inspiration to keep going. Right? He has 6 adopted children. So I go, you're going to be
Don't
the
ruin
first
my spot, man.
sponsor of the Owwll podcast. So we're going to take a quick commercial break, and then we're going to get back to Hoot Do You Know?
All right, guys. Well, here we go. What if I told you there's a way for you to see how much time your audience was taking out of their lives to engage in your content? Daniel Hall is the adoptive dad of 6 remarkable children. Sounds kind of busy. And those children have made him an expert in learning how to listen with more than just his ears. And that has been his inspiration in creating Peekaboo. 3 years in the making, Peekaboo for LinkedIn is shifting creators' minds from vanity metrics to reality metrics. Learn more about your superfans and Peekaboo at staging.peekaboo.live.
Wow. And I'm going to dive a little deeper because I just tested it yesterday.
Oh, yeah?
So it's pretty cool. So you know how you do a post on LinkedIn and people just comment, you get likes, but you don't really know who all your fans are over time, right? They're hidden there, continuously commenting, liking. Well, the report will actually show who put the most comments on all your posts,
Wow.
how often they're even viewing your posts. So over time, you have this entire report that will say, okay, Jemmy is your biggest fan, right? Mm-hmm. Wouldn't you like to then send her a thank you card? You're big on thank you cards.
I was just going to say, yeah.
Right? Wouldn't you want to send her a gift or say, hey, why don't we jump on a networking meeting, right? If they're your fans, you should be interacting with them. And often, people are not. You have all these people that grow large followings on social media, especially LinkedIn, and they're not doing much to their fans. So they're loving it right now. He's getting a lot of engagement.
And
That's
his
really
story
great.
is amazing too. Oh my!
Oh, he will be
goodness.
on the Owwll podcast
Incredible.
next time he visits South Florida, of
Incredible.
course. And everyone listening, eventually we're going to put a TV right here. So we're going to hopefully do a remote one, right, Jemmy?
Yeah.
We're going to figure this out. We'll put a big
absolutely.
60, 70-inch flat screen in back of me and kind of be a hybrid in-person / remote.
Yeah, that way we can talk to people from all over the country.
Absolutely. Well, let's get into our next segment. It is all about Hoot Do You Know? The power of networking. And you are a power networker, right? And behind the scenes, you're doing those little things that people sometimes don't always see, but I see it. Jemmy sees it, right?
Yes.
Because we receive these packages. We've seen the cards, right? So start with, just the power of networking. What do you do day in and day out to make sure it's part of your business process? Is it that once a week you go to an in-person event or something online on Clubhouse or on Zoom, or you're traveling to different destinations to, all these big events in Las Vegas, for example? Like, what is it that you do day in and day out to network?
I definitely think that trying to make the time to go to things like participate in Clubhouse, and it's not, honestly, in my case, we have a really busy schedule with clients, so it's not contrived and okay, once a week I have to do Clubhouse, although I do try to, when I get an alert, even with Owwll, when I get an alert, I'll try to log on and make myself available. So it's really, and honestly, for myself, I think it's in my DNA. I really love doing these things. It's not like an effort. And if I could go out there and, network all the time, and frankly, I don't even see it as networking. I see it as getting together with friends and catching up with people. And then opportunity comes from that. It's really just from learning. And, there are some things that I know naturally I did through COVID. Like, for example, every morning I would listen to the Noodleberg Daily Huddle. I know you guys have had...
The whole family was on the shrimp tank. We did the first 3 people at once type of episode. Yeah, it was cool.
Yeah, it's so cool. And I know, I am, and I know you are too, Jason, like just and you too, Jemmy, just naturally a glass half full positive person. But it was hard being home all the time in your home office.
Yeah.
And so those little things that you can get, like a little piece of excitement, a little piece of motivation, a little piece of networking, even when you're not really networking, but building community. I definitely like to participate in LinkedIn Locals. We have, even with the TEDx event, we'll have a VIP party. We'll try to have events leading up to the TEDx to get people excited about it and get people exposed to the speakers who they normally wouldn't have access to. So I think those are the types of things that, just people make yourself aware of them and get out there.
I heard her say, surround yourself around good people because good things come, over time.
I know, which is why I love what you do, because you create those opportunities for people to engage with other people. You create networking events for people to network at and everything else. So I saw that your theme for TEDx 2022 was defining moments. And that made me very curious about two questions. The first question, or answer them in either order, but the first question is, who created a defining moment for you that has influenced your path? And then whether it's something that you learned through the TEDx speakers or just in your general moving and shaking every day, how do you create defining moments for those that you help?
Wow.
That's a big one.
Very thoughtful. So I definitely think in my upbringing, because as all of us, we have foundational things in our life that sort of make us who we are. And for myself, I have 2 teenagers at home, so I love to network. I love to.
One of them was sent to prison camp this summer. Just for clarification, we discussed this before the show. We're just kidding. Go ahead. No, they're both safe.
She needed a break, Jemmy. She needed a break.
They're both safely home. I kid.
Camp in Georgia in the mountains. He loved it.
Very deep into the mountains.
It was prison for me. That's what it was.
Just teasing.
Okay, so I would say just growing up, my dad, everybody talks about side hustles. My dad had, a tree company growing up, and I grew up in New York City, and it was, we were definitely a working class family. Both of my parents worked. And I think just seeing him making investments when he was, younger, when I was small, working 2 jobs. He worked for the New York City Parks Department, started his own tree business. And he did that. He finished work, went to work at 6 a.m., was finished at 3, then started his second job. I think things like that were obviously very, very impressional. I was, impressed, and it I think was definitely part of what laid the groundwork for me and my passion for hustling, but in a good way, like just
New York tends to do that to people,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, definitely. So that's definitely part of some of the defining moments I had growing up that actually, when I first graduated from FIT, I remember one of my first jobs was in Neiman Marcus as like an assistant manager, and it was in Westchester County. And in New York, you have to like turn the car on when it's in the winter time and scrape the windshield and let it heat up for 20 minutes. And I remember there were terrible storms, and my parents were like, "Oh no, you can't drive in this. You can't go to work." And it was like, well, wait a minute. I'm the one that has to go to work to tell everyone they can't go to work. I can't, do that. So,
no one ever thinks of that person.
Yeah, right. So, and granted, I wasn't,
back then there was no cell phone where you could just push out a message to everybody or shoot out an email, right?
Right. I wasn't high on the food chain, but at the same time, I felt that responsibility. I think that's sometimes ingrained in you from when you're growing up and you see mentors, which in my case was definitely my parents, So, and then with clients, I just, some of the things, and again, with TEDx, a lot of what we do is identify whatever the theme is, we will help different people in some cases. I know this was not this past year, but the year before, Heather Monahan was one of the speakers, and the theme was reinventing yourself. So we brainstormed about
reinventing yourself as a theme during COVID. I can't even imagine.
Right. Right, exactly. So, it really is digging deep sometimes and learning about peeling those layers off and learning about what is that moment in time, or what is something that has impacted you that makes a difference. And some people can just like pick them out of the sky and know them, and some people it takes a little bit longer, but that's also part of the, I think, PR process too, learning, because some people tell their story and they say this is an amazing story, but you have to identify what's an idea worth spreading with TEDx. And then with the news, sometimes it's what's newsworthy, what's trending right now, what's out there that's relevant, that people will care about.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about being a giver versus a taker, right? So often people always, look at you and say, oh, she's so lucky she runs the TEDx. She's so lucky, she got her client on the news. She's so lucky she's on the Owwll podcast, episode number 2.
Highlight of her life.
Highlight.
I am so lucky.
So, it's not luck, right? I see things that you do that many do not, behind the scenes. I think it's important for a lot of experts out there to really understand, like, when you go live on Clubhouse or Owwll or LinkedIn or Instagram, like, you have to do things in a way that you're not expecting immediate results, right? You're not just giving to say, well, if I post, I need people then call me or do something, do business with me, right? But you do something naturally. Obviously, you're just a natural at giving. So kind of peel back the onion a little bit for our audience. Tell us what you do day in and day out just to be a giver, and then kind of some of the things that have come back from giving.
And by the way, you guys are the same way, so I think it really is about authentically caring about whether it's people, their stories, how you can help them. And granted, there's only 24 hours of the day. We can't help everyone, but we want, I know I do when I hear people's stories. It's funny. I went to dinner a couple of years ago with some family members and a friend, and they said, oh, her boyfriend is really, really an introvert and he hardly talks, and we got seated next to each other. We talked the entire time, and I was just so fascinated. And by the way, he was a brilliant person. He wrote books, and I just thought he's an introvert, but I was so curious, and I think that's one of the things, just being curious about other people and what they're doing. And, it just naturally, I think, well, how can I help them? Who can I introduce them to? Who do I know? And it's funny because now LinkedIn has become, and LinkedIn, I'm a huge, huge fan. But sometimes people will say, let's connect and let me know who I can introduce you in my connections. And I just feel like it's impersonal when people do that. Not that I'm criticizing. I just feel like, get to know people and get to know how you can help them, and I think that's sort of the key here.
It kind of goes back to a core key element of sales in general. You have to listen first to what that person's need actually is. And that's just something you're really good at. You're very curious. And I think that pulls you through all those conversations. So I think a great takeaway for people listening to you is, be curious about the person on the other end of it and explore how you can help them, because it will come back to you.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. And when we see, people, just always getting luckier and luckier, they're always giving and giving and giving more.
Luck is where opportunity meets preparation. So says Oprah.
Yes. Love Oprah. Another mentor, which, by the way, another mentor that we don't have to know.
Yes.
Can watch Super Soul Sunday and learn a ton.
Well, that's another good segue. Cindy, you're just lobbing them right up. And
our final segment is What the Flock, right? What have you learned from mentors? So let's start, with one that, just inspired you. You mentioned earlier your father, but let's go to somebody else, someone locally, let's say, or nationally that you have conversations with on a regular basis, and, really has, helped you kind of when you've been on the ground floor, where you kind of, It could have been when COVID hit, for example. Everyone was working from home and we're like, more people were unhappy than ever.
Time, yeah.
Even right now, more people are unhappy than ever. But like, who was that mentor that really kind of, has always been there to listen to you? Because you're always the listener on the other end, and then has always inspired you to be better.
Well, I've had a lot over the years. Incredible. I'm very fortunate, and I not that it just sort of organically happened. It's not said I said, "Can you be my mentor?" and it happened. But a few years ago, I joined. It wasn't even like an official group, but it was a group of 4 people. And Barry Gottlieb, he's on LinkedIn. He's amazing. He's built many, many businesses. He's sort of a trusted advisor, like you're a trusted advisor with finances.
Yep.
He's a trusted advisor. So business wise, when things happen, and as a matter of fact, I had a call with him yesterday, and sometimes it's like months and months and months will go by. And he's someone that I could really tell anything to. And he always has some wonderful nuggets of advice. And even if it's not business oriented, even if it's about, just taking a moment to breathe, things like that when we're all busy people, I feel like we are busier than ever. Everyone is so busy, like between social media and running their businesses and running 3 businesses, right, my friends?
Well, here's the thing. Somebody who's watching this or listening in, they're thinking, well, all of that sounds really great, and we mentioned, Googling for and going on YouTube, and we have all these resources, but time is limited. So the question they might have, and I'd love to have your perspective on this, Cindy, is how do you know how to find a good mentor? What makes a good mentor? So when you find the right one, you know it, and you can stop wasting your time keeping on looking.
Right. Well, it's funny. I think following people and learning from them. And I have to mention another, during COVID, as I said, I honestly didn't have a lot of downtime, but I made an intentional effort to really take some time to find mentors and learn, because I wanted to. And, I see some people that are 20 years younger than me and they're doing this. And I think it's like, wow, I wish I had done this a long time ago. But really find people who are where you want to go. And I don't mean exactly where you want to go, but people that have had success, because everyone can give you advice. Family members or friends, but if they're not, where you want to be, then that's not necessarily the person that is the best person in your particular case. And so I was following actually an author. She's a Forbes contributor. Her name is Mimi, and she's amazing. And I read so many of her articles, and I was a fan. And I went on her LinkedIn. I sent a note to her. She's a ghostwriter for some books too. And so we had a conversation. And then she also does life coaching, and she's a woman. She's around my age and has 2 kids also. And then I actually hired her to be, a life coach for myself. And we don't meet all the time, but we meet. At first it was once a week. Sometimes now it's every 2 weeks. Sometimes it's once a month, depending upon our schedule. But it's a sounding board also that I can lean on. She's a businesswoman. She's a writer. She has so many things that I felt like aligned with what I needed. And, I would highly recommend, obviously not everybody can afford to hire a coach, but if you can't, there's so many people online that you can listen to and even reach out to. And in many cases, they'll get back to you and see how they can help you.
I think the bottom line in searching for a mentor really is just being in the habit of surrounding yourself with good people, because you never know where they're going to come from. And it could be somebody who is ahead of you. And so you want to be like them, like you were mentioning, right? So one of my own mentors is a gentleman named Glenn. And one of the pieces of advice he gave me really early on, and I've carried it forward, was hire people who are better than you. And one of the things that I've experienced in hiring people who are better than me is that they have, in some ways, accidentally become mentors for me because they're good at this one particular skill set, and I'm learning from them and asking questions. For example, I'll get on with my friend George, who works for me. He's my lead technical producer, and I love to just listen to his brain geek out about podcast tech, and I learn. So I'm curious, have you had that experience as you've surrounded yourself with good people, intentionally or unintentionally? Have you learned from people who probably see you as the mentor, but maybe they're really good at something and you're learning from them? You talked about being inspired by the 20-year-olds. I'm just curious if you learn from those around you who are trying to learn from you.
Oh, absolutely. Like I've had clients that have hired us for, whether it's marketing, public relations, social media assistance that is within our wheelhouse of expertise. And then I will learn a lot. Like I mentioned the indoor air quality company, the founder of that company, his name's Ron Saunders. I think you may have met him at one of the events that we've been to at the Brand Star.
Yeah.
He spoke there. He built an incredible business, and he's always also been like a colleague in business. I've known him for many, many years, but just watching him grow his business, the way that he conducts his business, the people around him that would really he treats them like family. I've picked his brain so many times, and sometimes it's not even about, it's just watching, people that are leading by example and you seeing how they interact and they see how they handle things. And also, like I said, during COVID, and by the way, I have a 2-decade or 2.5, I've known Steve Nudelberg for many, many years. When I worked with Reem, was my client for 15 years. Don Shula was the spokesperson for the first 5 years. And Steve Nudelberg had a sports marketing company, and they ran the celebrity golf tournaments, which was for breast cancer. And a lot of our Reem contractors would go. And that's how we connected back in the day in Miami. And he's also been an incredible mentor. And now I see the dynamic between him and his son. And it's just incredible to see. And it's great to see the juxtaposition because, Mark's in his 30s, Steve is 60 now. And it's great because you bring in, the expertise, the knowledge of two different vantage points. And it's a beautiful thing.
So the last question that I personally have for you is, because TED is about ideas worth spreading. So, we have an audience right now listening in. So if you were to play mentor to our whole audience for just a moment, what is a key idea from the world of Cindy that you think should be spread?
A key idea. Wow. Well, right now, a lot of people, I'm just going to sort of shift into that answer. A lot of people with TEDx, they reach out and they share their stories. And that's not really what a TEDx is about. You can weave your story into a TEDx, but a TED Talk is about an idea worth spreading. So what I would recommend is for whatever your story is, to think about what the foundational idea is in that story, and then weave it into whether it's the theme of the TEDx or something relevant in the world right now. So right now, obviously mental health is a huge topic. And by the way, it touches everyone. Wellness, in so many ways is something that, everybody needs to be more aware of, whether it's, a child or someone who's in their 90s or 100, it affects, that's a common thread I think that everyone can relate to. So I would say something like that is just connecting the dots and making it aware. And certainly in the media too, you have to align with what's relevant in the news right now and what people are interested in hearing and talking about and how you can make that impact.
Makes a lot of sense. I think that's a fantastic idea. Certainly worth spreading. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, Cindy, thank you for being number 2 guest on the Owwll podcast.
Hoot, hoot.
For our audience listening, Of course, you could reach out to her right on Owwll's platform, hit the go live button. She'll get a text message and she'll jump on there and you guys could have a conversation, of course. But other ways they could reach you. Are you on social media? Do you have a website? What are other routes?
Yeah, so we have a website, ommmedia.com. And LinkedIn, honestly, is the best way to reach me. Pretty active on LinkedIn.
Okay.
And yeah, I listen a lot on LinkedIn and comment a lot and watch what's happening. So yeah, love to reach here.
Awesome.
Fantastic. And go ahead and get that peekaboo thing, and maybe you'll find out that Cindy's your highest engaged super
you're on
fan.
there a lot.
There you go.
I hope to see that you're in my top 5 when I run my reports. And
That's right.
of course,
I'm
well,
sure.
everyone tuning in, we'll be back tomorrow. We are doing shows. Actually, we're off tomorrow. We're back on Thursday. At 9:30, 9:45-ish to kick a live Facebook feed off again. And we'll be back again on Friday as well. So it's an awesome
Our guest
week.
Thursday is Andrea Ocampo, another friend of mine. You'll love her.
And then, of course, go on Owwll. There's tons of contests and awards and donate to Place of Hope. Right on their website. We have links everywhere.
And people will be on Clubhouse at 4 o'clock if you want to tune in. Lots of stuff going on today.
LinkedIn Live, LinkedIn Audio,
All kinds
LinkedIn
of
Audio. Yeah, 2 o'clock too.
Owl
Okay.
Week is in the house.
Take care, everybody. See
Thank
ya.
you, Cindy. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.